Gameplay matters, graphics matter, but the games you remember for the rest of your life, those are the ones that told you a story worth hearing. 2026 has 11 games coming where the story isn't just background noise, it's the reason you play. Whether you love dark fantasy, psychological horror, spy thrillers, or sci-fi epics, every game on this list has a narrative worth your time. Let's get into it.
It's all right.
Lunka! Don't hurt her!
You gave us quite the chase, young man.
Please, sir. She's just a child!
Roderick, remind me, did I make an exception for children?
The Blood of Dawnwalker comes from former Witcher developers, and the narrative pedigree shows in everything. You play as Cohen, a man turned vampire against his will. Your family has been taken. The clock is ticking. Every quest you complete pushes time forward, and you won't know what mattered most until it's already too late. That urgency runs through every decision, not in a stressful way, in a meaningful way. The time system means your choices actually have weight. What you prioritize defines your story. During the day, you're limited, careful, vulnerable. At night, everything flips, faster, stronger, dangerous, but also more exposed to threats you can't handle. The story explores what it means to lose your humanity while trying to save the people you love. Vampire mythology done with emotional depth, rather than just cool powers. The world is massive, but the story keeps you focused. Side content connects back to the main narrative. Nothing feels like filler. Everything serves the story.
To remain alive even after today. As your sister, I'll kill you if I must. For his sake as well. I'll destroy it all! I hated my father. But I didn't really like my mother either.
Silent Hill, Townfall is one of the most mysterious. Games currently in development. No familiar monsters, no familiar faces, no fog in the traditional sense. This is a completely fresh take on Silent Hill, developed by No Code, the studio behind Observation. And stories untold. They specialize in psychological horror. That gets under your skin without relying on cheap scares. The premise involves a man named Ian who finds a radio that connects him to someone trapped inside Silent Hill. The horror unfolds entirely through that connection. You never enter Silent Hill directly, you experience it through someone else's terror. That distance creates a specific kind of dread that direct gameplay simply cannot achieve. The story is told through fragmented communication, static-filled transmissions, desperate pleas, silence that says more than words ever could. What makes it fascinating is the approach. No combat, no action sequences, pure psychological horror through narrative design. The atmosphere shown so far is genuinely unsettling, quiet, wrong, deeply uncomfortable, in ways that are difficult to articulate.
What do you do, James?
Lately, headhunting.
First Light is IO Interactive telling an original James Bond story from the very beginning. This isn't the smooth, polished 007 everyone knows. This is Bond at 26, a naval pilot, young, reckless, talented, but unrefined. His first real intelligence mission goes badly wrong. That failure is the foundation of the entire story. How a young man who failed spectacularly becomes the most effective spy in the world. The origin story approach changes everything. Bond makes mistakes. Bond is vulnerable. Bond doesn't always have the right answer. Watching him develop through the narrative is the emotional core of the experience. IO Interactive brings Hitman's player freedom to this. Multiple approaches to every situation, but the story reacts to how you handle things. A loud approach tells a different story than a quiet one. The supporting cast is built for narrative depth. Characters with their own agendas and motivations. Alliances that shift. Trust that's earned and sometimes broken. The spy thriller tone is handled with genuine sophistication, political complexity, moral ambiguity. Nothing is as simple as good versus evil.
I'd like to say I'm not a violent man. The trouble just has a way of finding me. But I'd be lying how far I run.
Marvel's Wolverine is Insomniac going dark, genuinely dark, darker than anything they've done with Spider-Man. Logan isn't cracking jokes, he's dealing with decades of pain and rage, and a history that won't stop haunting him. The story digs into who Wolverine actually is. Not the cool guy with claws, the broken man underneath, the memories he can't escape, the violence he's addicted to despite knowing it destroys everything around him. Insomniac proved with Spider-Man that they understand how to build emotional superhero stories. Wolverine requires something different, something angrier, something sadder, something that acknowledges the darkness without glorifying it. The story structure follows Logan through multiple locations and timelines: Canadian wilderness, Tokyo's criminal underground, Madripoor's lawless streets. Each location connects to a different piece of his past. Supporting characters aren't just cameos. Omega Red, Mystique, Sentinels, each one serves the narrative meaningfully. The relationship between violence and identity is the story's central theme. Can Logan be something other than what he was built to be?
Better be a fucking alien.
Directive 8020 is Remedy Entertainment's next project, the studio behind Alan Wake and Control. And if those two games taught us anything, it's that Remedy understands narrative design at a level very few studios can match. Details are deliberately limited. What we know is that it involves science fiction, that it connects to the wider Remedy-connected universe, that the themes involve reality distortion and the boundaries between dimensions. Remedy has built a reputation on stories that blur the line between fiction and reality, where narrative becomes a gameplay mechanic, where understanding the story is the challenge. The connected universe concept means characters and events from Alan Wake and Control may intersect. That shared narrative space creates possibilities that most standalone games simply cannot offer. Sam Lake's writing is consistently exceptional, complex without being confusing, ambitious without losing emotional grounding. Whatever Directive 8020 actually is, Remedy's track record guarantees the story will be worth experiencing. Directive 8020 releases 2026.
We may be a small crew, but the work we do matters.
Welcome to the Stanton. I'm Eugene Morrow.
Learn your name and live long enough for me to care.
Baron Actual, you're clear to launch.
Launching in 3, 2, 1.
Squadron 42 has been in development for years, but the story it's trying to tell might justify every single day of that wait. This is the single-player campaign of Star Citizen, a massive cinematic space military experience featuring Gary Oldman, Mark Hamill, and Gillian Anderson. Not voice cameos, full performance capture performances from some of the greatest actors alive. You're a recruit in the United Empire of Earth Navy. Your first assignment drops you into a massive conflict. That escalates beyond what anyone anticipated. The story unfolds across 28 chapters of content. The narrative ambition is genuinely staggering. Each chapter feels like an episode of a prestige TV series. Character development across 28 chapters allows for narrative depth most games never attempt. The performances carry enormous weight. Gary Oldman, as your commanding officer, brings a gravity to the story that grounds everything. The scale shifts constantly. Intimate conversations, massive space battles, boarding operations, political intrigue. The story uses all of these to build something ambitious. Squadron 42 Beta releases 2026.
Great changes under the guidance of a great leader. If you are, then wake up and open the door for the noble right.
Wake up!
Metro 2039 is the next chapter in one of gaming's most narrative-driven shooter franchises. The Metro series has always used its story as something more than just context for shooting. The world underground, the factions, the politics, the deeply human stories told in the spaces between combat. 2039 pushes deeper, both literally and narratively. The tunnels go further down, the world gets darker, but the stories get more complex and more personal. New factions have emerged since the last game. Old ones have evolved. Alliances have shifted. The political landscape escape underground mirrors human nature in ways that feel disturbingly real. Your choices throughout affect the story genuinely. Not just the ending, the journey itself changes based on how you behave when nobody's watching. The moral system returns more nuanced than before. Good and evil aren't binary anymore. Survival creates compromises. Understanding those compromises is the story. The writing is sharper and more confident. Characters feel real. Conversations feel earned. The world tells stories even when nobody's talking. Metro 2039 releases Winter 2026. Judas is Ken Levine's return to gaming, the mind behind BioShock, the man who created Rapture and Columbia, the designer who proved that first-person shooters could tell genuinely philosophical stories. Judas puts you on a dying colony ship. 3 faction leaders compete for control. Each one has a vision for survival. None of them are completely right. None of them are completely wrong. Your relationships with each leader shape the narrative. Supporting one means opposing another. Every decision has political consequences. The story branches based on where your loyalty falls. The twist that Levine is known for is built into the structure itself. The game plays differently based on who you've supported. Multiple playthroughs reveal different truths. The writing tackles themes of faith and betrayal, not in a surface way, in a genuinely philosophical way. The questions the game asks don't have easy answers. First-person combat exists, but serves the narrative. Every mechanical decision connects to story themes. Judas releases 2026.
Spirit guides once used alchemy to cleanse corruption.
Kena: Scars of Kosmora is the sequel to one of the most emotionally impactful indie games ever made. The original Kena, Bridge of Spirits, surprised everyone. Gorgeous, Pixar-quality animation from a tiny studio. A story about grief and acceptance told through a spirit guide helping lost souls move on. Scars of Kosmora deepens everything. The world is bigger, the story is darker, Kena is older, more experienced, more burdened. The weight of what she does, guiding the dead, has accumulated in ways the first game only hinted at. The Rot companions return with expanded abilities. Their relationship with Kena has evolved. They're more capable, more expressive, more important. Combat is more challenging and varied. New enemy types demand different strategies. Boss fights are more spectacular and emotionally complex. But it's the story that will keep you playing. The writing handles themes of loss and responsibility with genuine maturity and emotional honesty. The visual quality remains industry-leading. Animation that rivals major studios. Environments that look like living paintings. Kena: Scars of Kosmora releases 2026.
How can I help you, boss?
Fable is Playground Games reimagining one of gaming's most beloved RPG franchises. The original Fable trilogy built its reputation on charm, humor, and moral consequence. Your character visibly changed based on your choices. Good deeds made you glow, evil deeds made you terrifying. The world responded to who you were. The new Fable preserves that spirit completely. A fantasy world where your reputation precedes you, where the story adapts to the kind of hero or villain you choose to be. The world of Albion is rebuilt with modern technology. Forests, towns, castles, dungeons, all of it handcrafted with the attention to detail that Playground Games demonstrated with Forza Horizon. The humor is back, that distinctly British wit. That made Fable stand apart from every other fantasy RPG. Nothing takes itself too seriously, but when the story needs to hit emotionally, it does. Character relationships develop throughout. NPCs remember what you've done. Your choices compound into a reputation. That shapes every interaction. Fable releases late 2026.
What is existence, really? Surely a question without an answer.
Ontos is a sci-fi narrative game that approaches storytelling from a completely unexpected angle. You're not a hero, you're not even a protagonist. In the traditional sense, you're an observer, watching a world collapse from the inside, deciding what to record, what to share, and what to keep hidden. The story unfolds based on your perspective choices. What you choose to witness shapes what you understand. Two players experiencing the same events can reach genuinely different conclusions about what actually happened. The world is detailed and complex, a space station on the edge of a gravitational anomaly. Something is wrong with it, something fundamental. Understanding what that something is requires paying attention to everything around you. The writing trusts you completely. No exposition dumps, no lengthy explanations. Information comes through observation and inference. The story assembles itself from fragments. Characters are complex and contradictory. Their motivations aren't always clear. What they tell you doesn't always match what you see. Deciding who to trust is the central narrative challenge. Ontos releases 2026. That's the list. 11 games coming in 2026 with stories genuinely worth playing for. Not background noise, not filler between gameplay. Real stories, real characters, real emotional investment. The kind of games you think about long after you finish them. Drop which story you're most excited for in the comments. I read every single one. Hit like and subscribe for more gaming content every week. See you in the next one.